Before we get started, I want to give you kind of a little prelude on the worlds and ideas that kind of motivate my research. So, broadly speaking, the work that I do is concerned with two special types of things that exist in our world. These are living creatures and computers. The neat thing about both living creatures and computers is that they can sense and react to their environments. And these abilities let both natural systems as well as digital systems carry out interesting behaviors. And putting both animal and digital behaviors together can help us understand the designs of both the creatures and the computers. Our key challenge, though, is that we have all these different things. We have these new technologies and stuff, but we don't really know what to do with them yet. We have to figure out new ways to arrange all of these naturalistic tools and computational devices in this web between sensors, robots, and different devices to let us better understand and integrate with the animals and natural environments around us. And so in order to do so, one thing that I propose is that we take our new digital tools we have into the wild. So, hi, I'm Andy, and I want to talk with you about designing interactive art and technology for biologists, with biologists, and doing it entirely in their field sites in the wild. So the way that I got started doing the work that I do in what I call digital naturalism is while working at a robotics lab at Georgia Tech that teamed up with biologists to track ants. It was really fascinating work, but it was quite frustrating at the same time. We sat in a lab all day coding software, but our systems weren't that robust. We could track the hell out of these ants super well as long as they were put on a flat white grid that was very well lit. But as soon as we tried bringing the software out into the field, all these little assumptions about light, geometry, and behavior of the creatures all came to the forefront, and these high-end systems would completely fail. And for me, I always felt like I was failing these field biologists. And instead of supporting the work that they were doing in nature, these new technologies and me were kind of forcing them into the lab, out of their habitats, out of their natural habitats in the wild. And bringing them into these laboratories where their specialized sensitive tools would be safe and sound and could actually work correctly. But maybe instead of making the biologists change and instead of making the animals change, maybe first it's the labs that need to change. So I started my research by researching historic naturalists who discussed the importance of doing experimentation in the animals' own natural habitats instead of laboratories. One reason for this was to minimize all the hidden assumptions that come and get thrown in when you cut creatures off and extract them from their evolved context in the foreign, and you put them in this foreign abstract world of the laboratory. Then I went and actually joined real field biologists and contemporary scientists in field labs like the Smithsonian Tropical Research Institute in Panama. There I went to study how these contemporary scientists live and work together in the field and create makeshift laboratory spaces to create the basic tools that they need to use for their very, very incredibly specific needs that their animals and their experiments have. Like, this is a single tadpole egg holder made from glass or thermoplastic, and you can't find those things at like Walmart. You have to make them yourself. One thing about the way these scientists work is a lot of them would be moving always back and forth between the laboratory and the field, testing out their new equipment, their new probes for their use in the field, breaking them. As soon as you build anything with digital tech, the first thing that's going to happen is it's going to break. You get the demo demon. But bringing them back and forth, lab and field, to refine. And I tried helping myself with them, bringing DIY digital tools into this workflow to help the scientists like Peter Marting build these kind of own programmable, dynamic, interactive ant aggravation probes. So it's a little device he could program to basically piss off ants in different kinds of ways. However, this workflow it began really speeding up how we can make digital instruments, going back and forth, lab and field, lab and field. But soon we began thinking about like, hey, can we get rid of the laboratory altogether? So that's when we started thinking about laboratories in the wild. So me and many of my wonderful collaborators started doing lots of tests on how we can have biological electronic laboratories that are entirely in the wild. And so one of the first field experiments we did was a series of workshops called hiking hacks. The basic model of a hiking hack worked like this. With a group of different naturalists and technologists, we would hike multiple days into an isolated wilderness while carrying any tools or anything we were going to need to use with us. We would bring all these tools and live out in the wild, exploring, building, and using these devices along with designing them and reflecting upon and finally documenting all of these experiences. We got to test out these hiking hacks all over the world: Panama, Madagascar, Philippines, even the US, and in many different locations. And it showed us that while wilderness workshops had tons of their own very unique, very difficult challenges, we were 9 days going across Panama. We met this guy who warned us that there was a mountain pass coming up and it was all flooded and it was impossible to go through. And if we made it past that, we would have to camp out underneath which mountain, which would make us go insane. And it turned out there's some sort of weird chemicals in the water there that even if you drink it, it's very bad for your health. So it was that was a thing problem you don't run into in a normal electronics laboratory. But a cool thing, despite how hard all these things were, it let us understand there was lots of real cool perks that came out about this. Building stuff in nature let us design and evaluate new programmable tools that we got to test with animals and interact between different kinds of animals. These are Firefly Suits, where we could communicate and play mating games with fireflies out in the middle of a dark forest. And do these artworks in an incredibly fast way that kept both the designers and the biologists out in this inspirational target environment. These hiking hacks themselves became a fruitful venue for new research, leading me and a collaborator, Hannah Perner-Wilson, to start exploring this idea of fully wearable studios. We ruminated on the designs of traditional studios and laboratories and how we could better protect and organize our gear, such as creating these customized backpacks that Hannah designed that let us, that they can unfold into organizers for electronics and tools right when we're out in the wilderness. And so we can deploy these anywhere, including forests, backyard trees, conferences. We even had a moving workshop that was going through Ars Electronica last year and busy art exhibition spaces. So we realized one thing, the importance of how when you're in the forest, you can't rely on much beyond your own body. And so wearable organizers and electronics work surfaces that could be incorporated directly into your body, into your clothing, into your accessories, became integral parts of our own wearable studios, having a soldering bench built into your knee, for instance. One's body could also serve as excellent storage for hard-to-access information, such as these are bandanas that turn into quick electronics cheat sheets, as well as temporary tattoos, allowing quick access to your designs that you can build while you're actually wearing them. So you can make wearable devices based on a schematic that you piece together right on your own body. Sometimes, though, despite our best efforts, your equipment or the places you go to make it impossible to completely wear your own studio. So we're also looking at mobile studios, studios that travel along with you. So you can have your lab go along wherever you want it to go. So one example is the boat lab that I made in the Philippines last year. It's a design for a community project in the Philippines where we built by hand our own entirely modular floating hackerspace out of bamboo for local citizen science and environmental research. It was complete with an array of different kinds of environmental sensors, underwater drones, and we even built in visualizers for the data they collected. We had programmable LED displays, as well as a kind of waterfall that you could project different imagery from the submarine drones on the side of it. I'm also working with groups using pre-made boat labs, or as you might know them, ships. We're using those to try to go and explore deeper parts of the ocean and create onboard maker spaces, so adapting things like our backpacks to deployment on ships. So trying to look at both traditional seafaring technology as well as cutting-edge homebrewed devices, such as this is Matthias Hoffmann-Kuntz's dolphin sonic camera, so he can see where dolphin sounds are actually coming from. I'm even volunteering with this amazing guy who you should look up if you haven't heard of him, Doug Jackson's amazing project called the SV Seeker, to build an entire open source research vessel from scratch in his backyard in Oklahoma. It's a fascinating project. So if any of these ideas or projects intrigue you, how can you get involved? Well, there's several ways that you can. First, for more basic info on things that I do, and to check out lots of videos and art and free books that I have, just go to digitalnaturalism.org. I'm also super duper excited that you all get the first ever announcement here at Dazer that I'm going to be hosting the first Digital Naturalist Conference next summer. What I'm doing is I am, from May 20th to July 15th, I'm renting out a large rustic resort on an island off Phuket that you can all come and camp with for free with different hackers, field biologists, and artists. We're going to be able to accept up to 200 people, it looks like. And so you can come live with us, work with us, hang out. Check it out. Go to Digital Naturalism Conference or dynacon.org. If you can't make it all the way to Thailand, I got another thing for you. In New York City, as Madeline Schwartzman mentioned earlier, we have a very digital naturalist type interactive art piece on display at the See Yourself Exist show at the Pratt Manhattan Gallery. It opens December 7th, but it runs till February 17th. And if you can't make any of those, at least you can always just go run outside and play outside. Just make yourself go outside and bring your electronics with you. So in conclusion, this early work exploring what we can do outside the limits of traditional laboratories has been really exciting and eye-opening for me and lots of people that I've gotten to go on these journeys with. I look forward to a world of digital naturalists living and working together while immersed in nature, driven by their own curiosities, and completely unbounded in their creation of new tools for engaging with the natural world. So, thank you very much.